The billionaire's son had only 3 months to live, but when the poor little girl learned about this, what she did next left the powerful man completely speechless and in tears. No one could believe it. Before we dive into the story, leave a comment below and tell us where you're watching from. Enjoy the story. The elevator doors opened with a soft whisper, revealing the marble-clad 42nd floor of Harrison Medical Tower. Michael Harrison stepped out, his Armani suit perfectly pressed despite the exhaustion weighing on his broad shoulders. At 32 years old, he commanded a business empire valued at $3 billion. But today, he felt like the poorest man in the world. "Mr. Harrison," Dr. Patricia Chen greeted him with that careful expression doctors use when they're about to deliver devastating news. "Thank you for coming so quickly." Michael's heart pounded against his ribs as he followed her down the immaculate hallway. Through the floor-to-ceiling windows, Manhattan spread below them like a kingdom he no longer cared to rule. Nothing mattered except the 7-year-old boy waiting in the pediatric ward, his son Tommy. "The latest test results came in this morning," said Dr. Chen, settling behind her mahogany desk. "Michael, I wish I had better news, but Tommy's condition has progressed faster than we anticipated." The words hit him like physical blows. Acute myeloid leukemia, a rare and aggressive form that had already claimed many young lives. "How long?" His voice failed despite his efforts to stay strong. 3 months, maybe less. Dr. Chen's professional mask slipped, revealing the pain she felt for every patient she couldn't save. "We've exhausted all conventional treatments. The bone marrow registry found no matches, and his body isn't responding to experimental protocols." Michael gripped the arms of the leather chair, his knuckles white. 3 months, 90 days to watch his beautiful boy fade away. The same child who still believed his daddy could fix anything, who drew superheroes with his father's face, who whispered, "I love you" to the moon and back every night. "There has to be something else," Michael pleaded, his billionaire confidence crumbling. "Money is no object. I'll fund any research, any treatment, anywhere in the world." Jen shook her head slowly. "Michael, sometimes medicine has limits that even unlimited resources cannot overcome." 2 hours later, Michael sat in his Bentley outside St. Mary's Children's Hospital, unable to face going home to his empty mansion. His wife, Sarah, had left 6 months ago, unable to cope with Tommy's diagnosis. "I can't watch him die," she had sobbed before disappearing into a new life in California. Now, it was just Michael and Tommy against the world, and the world was winning. As he stared through the windshield, something caught his attention. A blonde little girl, maybe 7 years old, stood on the corner with a cardboard tray of homemade candy. Her clothes were worn but clean, her shoes held together with duct tape. Despite the cold October weather, she smiled cheerfully at every passerby, her voice echoing down the street. "Fresh candy! Help a girl save for school supplies." Michael watched her for 10 minutes, mesmerized by her relentless optimism. Even when most people passed without acknowledging her existence, she never stopped smiling. There was something familiar about her determination, something that reminded him of Tommy's own fierce spirit. But what could a poor street vendor understand about his world of private jets and penthouse apartments? What could she know about the agony of watching your child slip away, doctor by doctor, test by test, hope by hope? When Michael finally started the engine, he had no idea that this ragged little girl with the bright smile was about to change everything. He didn't know that behind her cheerful facade was a heart that understood loss better than any child should. And he certainly couldn't imagine that in 24 hours, this same girl would make an offer that would bring a grown billionaire to his knees. Lucy Martinez had been standing on that corner for 3 weeks. Ever since Mrs. Henderson from the apartment next door taught her how to make peppermint candy. At 7 years old, Lucy understood money in a way most children never should. Every dollar meant the difference between electricity and darkness, between dinner and an empty stomach. "One more dollar, and I can buy those crayons from school," she whispered to herself, watching another businessman pass without a glance. Her blonde hair, inherited from her Irish mother, caught the afternoon light as she repositioned her cardboard tray. The small apartment she shared with her grandmother, Rosa, was only 6 blocks away, but it seemed like a different universe from the gleaming medical towers surrounding her. Rosa worked double shifts as a hospital janitor, her arthritic hands scrubbing floors in the same building where wealthy families received the best care money could buy. "Mija," Rosa had said that morning, her wrinkled face marked with worry. "You don't have to do this. We'll find another way for your school supplies." But Lucy remembered the shame of being the only child in class without proper materials, the teacher's pitying look, the way other children whispered behind her back. She had learned early that pride was sometimes all poor people had. As the afternoon wore on, Lucy's feet ached in her too small shoes. She had outgrown them months ago, but new shoes weren't in the budget. Nothing ever was, not since Daddy died. The memory hit her as it always did, sudden and sharp. 6 months ago, her father Carlos had been strong enough to carry her on his shoulders. Then came the doctor visits, the whispered conversations between her parents, the way Mommy cried in the bathroom when she thought no one was listening. Acute myeloid leukemia, the doctor had said, using words Lucy didn't understand, but felt in her bones. She had watched her vibrant father shrink to a shadow, watched her mother work 3 jobs to pay for treatments that never came. When Carlos Martinez died, he took Lucy's childhood with him. Mommy couldn't handle the grief and the bills, so she disappeared one night, leaving only a note. "Take care of our baby, Mama. I can't breathe in this world anymore." Now it was just Lucy and Grandma Rosa, 2 women against a world that seemed designed to break people like them. A black Bentley stopped at the red light, and Lucy could see the driver, the same man she had noticed yesterday. He looked sad, the kind of deep sadness that reminded her of Daddy's last days. Without thinking, she approached his window. "Fresh peppermint candy, sir. Just 50 cents each, and they're made with real sugar, not that fake stuff." The man looked at her through the glass, and Lucy saw something in his eyes that made her chest tighten. It was the same look Daddy used to have when he thought she wasn't watching, like he was carrying the weight of the entire world. The light turned green, and the Bentley drove away. But Lucy had the strangest feeling that she would see that sad man again, and somehow she knew that when she did, everything would change. What she didn't know was that the man in the Bentley was about to discover that sometimes the smallest people carry the biggest hearts, and that a 7-year-old girl with 50-cent candy was about to teach a billionaire the true meaning of sacrifice. Michael couldn't stop thinking about the blonde little girl with the candy tray. For 2 days he had passed that corner, and each time he saw her bright smile, something inside his chest loosened just a fraction. Today, he finally stopped. "Good afternoon, sir." Lucy smiled when he approached, her enthusiasm genuine despite the cold October wind. "Would you like some peppermint candy? I made them myself this morning." Up close, Michael noticed details that broke his heart. Her jacket was too thin for the weather, her backpack held together with safety pins, but her eyes sparkled with the kind of hope he had forgotten existed. "I'll take them all," he said, pulling out his wallet. Lucy's eyes widened. "All of them? But sir, that's 20 pieces, that's $10. "Keep the change," Michael said, handing her a $100 bill. Lucy stared at the money as if it might disappear. "Sir, I can't make change for this. I only have $3 in my pocket." "I don't need change." Michael's voice was gentler than he had used in months. "What's your name, sweetheart?" "Lucy Martinez," she said, still holding the bill with trembling hands. "And you don't need to pity me, sir. I work for my money honestly." The dignity in her voice reminded Michael of himself at her age, when his own family had struggled before his father's business took off. "I'm not pitying you, Lucy. I'm admiring you. It takes courage to work so hard." "My grandma says honest work never hurt anyone," Lucy replied, carefully folding the $100 bill. "She cleans offices downtown. Sometimes I help her on weekends." Michael felt a pang of recognition. His own grandmother had cleaned houses to help support the family. "What do you want to be when you grow up?" "A doctor," Lucy said without hesitation. So I can help sick people get better. My daddy was sick and the doctors tried really hard, but her voice trailed off. I'm sorry about your father, Michael said, crouching to her eye level. What was his name? Carlos Martinez. He was the best daddy in the whole world. He used to say that even when life knocks you down, you get up and help someone else get up too. Michael's throat tightened. He sounds like he was a wise man. He was, Lucy said, her smile returning. That's why I sell candy here. Grandma Rosa works so hard and I want to help. Plus, I'm saving for college. Daddy said education is the one thing nobody can take away from you. As Michael walked back to his car, Lucy's words echoed in his mind. Here was a child who had lost everything but still believed in helping others. Meanwhile, he had every resource imaginable and felt completely helpless. Sir, Lucy called after him, I don't even know your name. Michael, he called back. Michael Harrison. Lucy waved enthusiastically. Thank you, Mr. Michael. You're an angel. If only she knew, Michael thought as he drove away, that angels were supposed to help people, not watch helplessly as their children slipped away day by day. But something had shifted in that brief conversation. For the first time in months, Michael had felt something besides despair. This extraordinary little girl had reminded him that courage comes in all sizes, and that sometimes the people with the least have the most to give. Tomorrow, he would learn just how true that was. Michael couldn't sleep that night. Lucy's words about wanting to become a doctor to help sick people kept circling in his mind. There was something about her determination, her pure heart, that reminded him of what he had forgotten in his desperate fight to save Tommy. The next morning, he found himself driving to that same corner again. Lucy was there as always, setting up her candy tray with the careful precision of someone who took their work seriously. Mr. Michael, she called out, her face lighting up. You came back. I couldn't stay away, he admitted, surprised by his own honesty. Lucy, can I ask you something? Why do you work on this corner instead of somewhere with more foot traffic? Lucy pointed to the medical building. Because of them, she said simply. The people going in and out of that big hospital. They're scared. I remember being scared when Daddy was sick. Sometimes a smile and something sweet can make the scary feeling go away, even if it's just for a minute. Michael's chest constricted. This 7-year-old girl had more wisdom about healing than most adults he knew. That's very thoughtful of you. Daddy taught me that. When he was getting his treatments, he always brought extra candy for the other patients. He said sharing sweetness doubled it. Lucy's eyes grew distant. He stayed in that building for 3 months before he went to heaven. Which building? Michael asked, though something in his gut already knew the answer. Harrison Medical Tower, Lucy said, pointing to the gleaming structure behind them. The cancer floor. Daddy said it was the fanciest place he'd ever been, with doctors who were really smart. They tried everything to save him. Michael felt the world tilt. His own medical center, the floors his foundation's research, the same place where Tommy was fighting for his life. What kind of cancer did your father have? The doctors called it AML, Lucy said, pronouncing each letter carefully. Acute myeloid leukemia. It's pretty rare, they said. Daddy's body couldn't fight it even with all the medicine. The words hit Michael like a physical blow. Acute myeloid leukemia, exactly the same disease that was ravaging his son's small body. This brave little girl had watched her father die from the same disease that was stealing Tommy. Lucy, Michael said carefully, I need to tell you something. I have a son who's very sick. Oh no, Lucy said, her young face creasing with genuine concern. What does he have? He has the same disease your father had. AML. Lucy's candy tray slipped from her hands, peppermint scattering across the sidewalk. For a moment she looked exactly what she was, young and vulnerable. Then, with the resilience that had carried her through unimaginable loss, she straightened her shoulders. How old is your son? She asked quietly. 7, just like you. Lucy nodded slowly, understanding passing between them like a current. What's his name? Tommy. Thomas Michael Harrison. Tommy, Lucy repeated as if testing the name. Is he scared? Michael's voice broke. Yes, We both are. Lucy began gathering her scattered candies, and Michael knelt to help her. When their hands touched, reaching for the same piece of peppermint, Lucy looked directly into his eyes. "Mr. Michael," she said with a seriousness that belonged to someone much older, "I think God brought us together for a reason." Michael wanted to say he had stopped believing in God the day Tommy was diagnosed, but looking at Lucy's earnest face, filled with faith that had survived the worst kind of loss, he found himself hoping she might be right. "Maybe he did," Michael whispered. Lucy smiled then, but it was different from her usual bright smile. This smile carried the weight of shared sorrow and the possibility of something more. "Tomorrow," she said, "I want to tell you a story about something my daddy said before he died. Something important." As Michael drove home that night, he couldn't shake the feeling that tomorrow would change everything. He had no idea how right he was. Michael barely slept that night. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw Lucy's face when she learned about Tommy's illness. There had been something in her expression, a flash of recognition, as if she had been waiting for this moment. At 10 o'clock the next morning, he was back at her corner. Lucy was there, but her usual bright energy seemed dimmed. Her candy tray sat beside her, but she wasn't calling out to passers-by. "Lucy, are you okay?" She looked at him with eyes that held too much knowledge for a 7-year-old child. "Mr. Michael, I need to tell you about the last thing my daddy said to me." Michael sat down on the concrete beside her, not caring about his expensive suit. "I'm listening." "It was 2 days before he died," Lucy began, her voice steady but soft. "The doctor said he didn't have much time. I was sitting next to his bed, and he was so weak he could barely talk." Michael's throat tightened, remembering his own father's final days. He took my hand and said, "Lucy, baby, Daddy's going to have to go away soon, but I need you to promise me something." "I said I'd promise anything." Lucy paused, wiping her nose with the back of her hand. "What did he ask you to promise?" "He said, if you ever meet another child who has what Daddy has, and if there's anything you can do to help them, you have to try, even if it's scary, even if it seems impossible, because love is the only thing stronger than this disease." Michael felt his chest contract. "I promised him," she continued. "I didn't really understand what he meant at the time, but now I do." She turned to face him fully. "Mr. Michael, I want to help Tommy." "Sweetheart, that's very kind, but..." "No, you don't understand." Lucy's voice carried a determination that stopped his words. "Daddy told me one more thing that last day, something the doctors had told him." Michael waited, sensing they were approaching something enormous. He said the doctors explained that if someone in his family had been a match, they could have done something called a bone marrow transplant. But me and Mommy weren't compatible. The doctors looked everywhere, but they couldn't find one. "Lucy, where are you going with this?" Lucy stood up, her small frame somehow seeming larger. "Yesterday, after you left, I went to see Grandma Rosa at the hospital. I told her about Tommy and asked her to help me understand something." "What did you ask?" "I asked if children could be bone marrow donors, and she said, yes, if they're healthy and if they're compatible." Lucy's eyes blazed with purpose. "Mr. Michael, I want to get tested to see if I can help Tommy." Michael's world stopped. "Lucy, no, absolutely not. I can't ask that of you." "You're not asking, I'm offering." Lucy's voice carried the same authority her father must have had. "Daddy died because no one could help him, but maybe I can help Tommy. Maybe that's why God let me meet you." "Lucy, bone marrow donation is a serious medical procedure. It's painful and there are risks. Will Tommy die without it?" The question hung between them like a blade. Michael couldn't lie to her, not when she was offering something so profound. "The doctors say he has 3 months. Then we don't have time to waste," Lucy said with breathtaking simplicity. "My daddy couldn't be saved, but maybe Tommy can be. Maybe all this sadness can turn into something good." Michael stared at this extraordinary child, this 7-year-old girl who was offering to endure pain to save a boy she'd never met. "Lucy, I need you to understand what you're saying. Bone marrow donation involves needles, surgery, recovery time." "Mr. Michael," Lucy interrupted, "did you know that when my daddy was dying, he was more worried about me and Mommy than about himself? He said that's what love does. It makes you brave for other people. Michael felt tears he had held back for months finally break free. Your father raised an incredible daughter. So, can I get tested? Lucy asked, bouncing slightly on her toes with nervous energy. Lucy, even if you wanted to, the chances of you being compatible are... But there's a chance. Michael looked at that hopeful face and felt something he hadn't experienced in months. The possibility of a miracle. There's a chance. Lucy clapped her hands. Then let's find out. When can we get tested? As Michael looked at this brave and generous child, who was willing to undergo medical procedures to save his son, he realized that sometimes angels appeared in the most unexpected forms, and sometimes they came carrying peppermint candy and hearts big enough to change the world. I'll call the hospital right now, he said, his voice thick with emotion he could no longer contain. Doctor. Patricia Chen stared at Michael across her desk, her expression a mixture of shock and professional concern. Michael, are you absolutely certain about this? You're asking me to test a 7-year-old girl who has no family connection to Tommy. I've never been more certain of anything in my life, Michael replied, his hand resting protectively on Lucy's shoulder. She sat beside him in the oversized leather chair, her feet swinging, but her posture radiating determination. Hello, Dr. Chen, Lucy said politely. Mr. Michael told me you're the doctor taking care of Tommy. Thank you for trying to help him. Dr. Chen's expression softened as she looked at Lucy. You're very welcome, dear, but I need to make sure you understand what you're volunteering for. Bone marrow testing involves blood draws, and if you are a match, the donation procedure is quite serious. I know, Lucy said simply. My daddy had this same disease. I saw him get lots of needles and tests. I'm not scared. Lucy, Dr. Chen leaned forward. Even if you are compatible, which is statistically very unlikely, the donation process would require you to stay in the hospital for several days. You'd have to take medicines that might make you feel sick and then undergo a procedure where we extract marrow from your hip bone. Michael watched Lucy's face carefully, ready to stop this entire conversation if he saw even a flicker of fear or doubt. Instead, her expression became more resolute. Dr. Chen, can I ask something? Lucy said. Of course. If I don't do this, will Tommy die? The directness of the question seemed to catch Dr. Chen off guard. Sweetheart, Tommy is very sick. Without a bone marrow transplant, his prognosis isn't good. That means he'll die, Lucy said matter-of-factly. My daddy died because no one could help him, but maybe I can help Tommy. Dr. Chen looked at Michael with a question in her eyes. He nodded almost imperceptibly. All right, Dr. Chen said. If your grandmother gives permission, we can do the initial blood test. But Lucy, I want you to understand that being compatible for bone marrow is incredibly rare. The chances of you matching Tommy are less than 1 in a million. But there's still a chance? Lucy asked. Yes, there's still a chance. Lucy smiled for the first time that day. Then let's find out. 2 hours later, after Rosa Martinez had arrived at the hospital and given tearful permission for the tests, Lucy sat in the pediatric lab with her arm extended bravely. The phlebotomist, a kind woman named Sandra, prepared to draw the blood needed for tissue typing. You're very brave, Lucy, Sandra said as she tied the tourniquet around Lucy's thin arm. My daddy said being brave doesn't mean you're not scared. It means you do the right thing even when you are scared. Lucy looked at Michael. I'm a little scared now, but I'm still doing it. Michael squeezed her free hand. Your father would be so proud of you. As Sandra drew the blood, Lucy chatted cheerfully about her school, her grandmother, and her dream of becoming a doctor someday. Michael marveled at her resilience. Here was a child who had lost everything but still had room in her heart to help others. All done, Sandra announced, placing a colorful bandage over the injection site. The results will take about 48 hours. As they prepared to leave, Dr. Chen pulled Michael aside. I have to tell you, Michael, I've been practicing medicine for 20 years and I've never seen anything like this. That little girl has something special. I know, Michael said, watching Lucy proudly show off her bandage to Rosa. The question is, will it be enough? Even if she's not compatible, Dr. Chen said quietly. "What she's doing for your family, for Tommy, it's extraordinary. Sometimes healing comes in ways we don't expect." That night, when Michael tucked Tommy into bed, he told his son about Lucy for the first time. Tommy's pale face lit up with curiosity. "She wants to help me, but doesn't even know me, Dad." "Sometimes the best people are those who help without expecting anything in return," Michael said, smoothing Tommy's thin hair. "Can I meet her?" Tommy asked. "If you want to, son, if you want to." As Tommy fell asleep, Michael stood at his penthouse window, looking out at the city lights. Somewhere out there, a little girl with a warrior's heart was also sleeping, having done something most adults wouldn't dream of attempting. In 48 hours, they would know if Lucy Martinez was Tommy Harrison's miracle. But Michael already knew that regardless of the test results, this brave child had already changed their lives forever. The question was, would science catch up to the miracle of her heart? The call came at 6:47 on a Tuesday morning. Michael's phone buzzed on his nightstand, pulling him from restless sleep. Dr. Chen's name flashed on the screen, and his heart immediately began to race. "Michael," Dr. Chen's voice was carefully controlled, but he could hear something underneath. Excitement mixed with disbelief. "I need you to come to the hospital immediately and bring Lucy. The results are in." Michael's mouth went dry. And Michael, you're going to want to sit down for this conversation." 30 minutes later, Michael and Lucy sat in Dr. Chen's office, Rosa's weathered hand gripping her granddaughter's shoulder. Lucy's legs swung nervously from the adult-sized chair, but her chin remained raised with characteristic determination. "Lucy," Dr. Chen began, "we ran your blood through every test we have. We checked 3 times because the results were so unprecedented." Michael's chest felt tight. "Just tell us, doctor. Lucy isn't just compatible with Tommy, she's a perfect match. 10 out of 10 markers align perfectly. In 20 years of practice, I've never seen such precise compatibility between unrelated donors." The room fell into stunned silence. Rosa crossed herself and whispered a prayer in Spanish. Lucy looked confused. "What does that mean?" Lucy asked. "It means," Dr. Chen said gently, "that your bone marrow could save Tommy's life. The match is so perfect that his body would accept your donation as if it were his own." Lucy's face lit up like sunrise. "Really? I can help him." "But," Dr. Chen continued, and Michael heard the warning in her tone, "this is where things get complicated. Lucy, your age presents some unique challenges. The hospital's ethics board will need to approve the procedure. There will be psychological evaluations, additional medical exams, and legal requirements." How long will all of that take?" Michael asked, his relief already turning to anxiety. 2 to 3 weeks minimum, possibly longer." Michael's heart sank. "Tommy doesn't have 3 weeks to wait for bureaucratic approval." "I understand your urgency," the doctor said. "I'll expedite everything I can. But Michael, there's something else. Something I discovered when I was reviewing Lucy's medical history." "What?" Rosa asked, her voice tense with sudden concern. "Lucy, when was your last medical checkup?" Lucy shrugged. "A long time ago. We don't have money for doctors unless it's really bad." Dr. Chen opened Lucy's thin medical file. "Based on the blood work, Lucy is slightly anemic and shows signs of nutritional deficiency. Before we can proceed with donation, we need to build up her health. She'll need iron supplements and a specific diet for at least 2 weeks." "Whatever she needs," Michael said immediately. "Money is no object." "Mr. Michael," Lucy interrupted, "you don't need to." "Yes, I do," Michael said firmly. "Lucy, you're offering to save my son's life. Let me take care of you." Rosa wiped her eyes. "Mija, this man is offering to help us. Maybe it's time to accept kindness sometimes." As they left the hospital that morning, Lucy tugged on Michael's sleeve. "Can I meet Tommy now? I want to tell him we're going to fight this disease together." Michael looked at this extraordinary child who had just learned she held his son's life in her small hands and felt his throat tighten with emotion. "Yes, Lucy, I think it's time you two met." But as they walked toward the elevator that would take them to the pediatric oncology ward, Michael couldn't shake Dr. Chen's warning about the ethics board and legal complications. In his world of billion-dollar businesses, he had learned that the most dangerous obstacles were often those that came wrapped in bureaucracy. He had no idea how right he was about to be. Tommy Harrison sat propped up in his hospital bed, his Star Wars pajamas hanging loose on his thin frame. His once thick brown hair had fallen out months ago, but his eyes still sparkled with the curiosity that had defined him since birth. "Dad said someone wants to help me," Tommy said when Michael entered with Lucy and Rosa. "Is that her?" Lucy stepped forward, suddenly shy. Meeting the boy she was trying to save seemed bigger than any blood test or doctor's consultation. "Hi, Tommy. I'm Lucy." "You're smaller than I thought you'd be," Tommy said with 7-year-old honesty. "I'm the same age as you," Lucy replied, moving closer to his bed. "Your dad told me you like superheroes." Tommy's eyes lit up. "I love them. Do you?" "My favorite is Wonder Woman because she's brave and helps people even when it's scary." Lucy pulled a slightly worn comic book from her backpack. "I brought you something." Tommy accepted the well-read copy of Wonder Woman, Champion of Hope with reverent hands. "This is yours. It was my daddy's when he was little. He gave it to me before he went to heaven." Lucy's voice remained steady. "I want you to have it." Michael watched the interaction with a tight throat. Two children who had faced impossible circumstances connecting over a superhero story. There was something profoundly right about the moment. "Your daddy went to heaven?" Tommy asked, his voice gentle. "Yeah, he had the same disease you have. But the doctors couldn't find anyone to help him in time." Lucy sat on the edge of Tommy's bed. "That's why I want to help you, so you don't have to go to heaven yet." Tommy studied Lucy's face with the seriousness that sick children develop far too early. "Aren't you scared? Dad said helping me was going to hurt a little." "A little," Lucy admitted. "But you know what my daddy told me? He said being brave doesn't mean you're not afraid. It means you do the right thing anyway." "That's exactly what my dad tells me about getting treatments," Tommy said, his eyes widening with recognition. "See? Our dads are smart." Lucy smiled. "Want to see something cool?" She pulled out her phone, an old cell phone Michael had bought for her the day before so they could stay in contact. "My grandma Rosa taught me how to make the best paper airplanes. Want to learn?" For the next hour, Michael and Rosa watched as Lucy and Tommy folded newspaper into increasingly elaborate flying machines. Tommy laughed more than he had in months, and Lucy seemed to forget her own fears in the joy of making a new friend smile. "Lucy," Tommy said as they tested their latest creation, "after you help me get better, will you still be my friend?" "Forever and ever," Lucy promised. "We're going to beat this disease together, and then we're going to have so many adventures. I'll teach you how to make my special peppermint candy, and you can show me all your superhero movies." "Really? Even the scary ones?" "Especially the scary ones. Remember, I'm not afraid of being brave." When visiting hours ended, Tommy hugged Lucy, a careful, gentle embrace that acknowledged his fragility but celebrated their new friendship. "Tommy," Lucy whispered in his ear, "I promise you're going to be okay. My daddy watches me from heaven, and now he's going to watch you too." In the elevator going down, Michael finally spoke. "Lucy, what you did up there. Tommy hasn't smiled like that in months." "He's a good boy," Lucy said simply. "He deserves to grow up and have a real life." "So do you," Rosa said quietly, speaking for the first time since they entered Tommy's room. As they walked through the hospital lobby, Michael's phone rang. Dr. Chen's name appeared on the screen, and something in her tone when she answered made his blood run cold. "Michael, we have a problem. The hospital's ethics board has some concerns about Lucy's donation. I need you back here immediately." Michael looked at Lucy, who was still glowing from her time with Tommy, completely unaware that bureaucracy was about to threaten the miracle they had just discovered. "We'll be right there," Michael said, but his mind was already racing toward the fight he knew was coming. The hospital's conference room felt like a courtroom, with Lucy sitting small and confused between Michael and Rosa, while a panel of 5 board members reviewed her case file. Dr. Helen Morrison, the hospital's chief ethics officer, led the questioning with the cold efficiency of someone who dealt with life and death decisions daily. "Lucy," Dr. Morrison began, "do you understand that bone marrow donation is a major medical procedure that could have serious complications?" "Yes, ma'am," Lucy replied politely. "Dr. Chen explained everything to me. And you understand that you might feel very sick afterward, and there's a small chance you could be hurt." Lucy nodded. "But there's a much bigger chance that Tommy could die if I don't help him." Dr. Morrison made a note. "Lucy, some people are concerned that a 7-year-old child cannot truly consent to such a serious procedure. They worry that you might not fully understand what you're agreeing to." Michael started to speak, but Dr. Morrison held up her hand. "I'm sorry, Mr. Harrison, but we need to hear directly from Lucy." Lucy straightened in her chair, and Michael recognized the posture she'd had when she first offered to help Tommy: determined, dignified, unwavering. "Dr. Morrison," Lucy said, her voice clear and strong, "I watched my daddy die from this same disease. I know exactly what happens when people can't get help. I saw how much it hurts, and I saw how families get sad. But Lucy, donating bone marrow will hurt too." "For a few days," Lucy interrupted, something she had never done to an adult before. "Tommy's hurt will last forever if he dies. My daddy's hurt lasted forever." The room fell silent. Board member Dr. James Wesley leaned forward. "Lucy, what if we told you there might be other donors who could help Tommy? Adults who could handle the procedure better?" "Are there other donors?" Lucy asked. Dr. Wesley hesitated. "Well, not right now, but..." "So you're asking me to let Tommy die because maybe someday someone else might help him?" Lucy's voice remained respectful but firm. "That's not what heroes do." Michael felt his chest swell with pride, but also with dread. The board members were exchanging looks that didn't seem promising. Dr. Morrison consulted her notes. "Mr. Harrison, I understand you've offered to pay for Lucy's medical care and any complications that might arise." "That's correct." "No, some board members are concerned this could be seen as coercion, offering financial incentives to a low-income family." Rosa spoke for the first time, her accented English carefully measured. "Doctor, my granddaughter didn't know this man had money when she offered to help. She saw a sad father and a sick child, and her heart told her to act. That's how we raised her. Mrs. Martinez, we appreciate that. But no." Rosa stood up, her small frame somehow commanding the room. "You listen to me. I've cleaned these floors for 15 years. I've seen rich families and poor families crying in these hallways when their children are sick. Pain doesn't care about money." Rosa's voice grew stronger. "My granddaughter lost her father to this disease. She knows what death looks like, what hope looks like, what love looks like. Don't you dare tell me she's too young to choose love." Dr. Morrison looked surprised by Rosa's passionate defense. "Mrs. Martinez, we're simply trying to protect Lucy's best interests." "Lucy's best interest is living in a world where people help each other," Rosa replied. "Where children don't have to die because adults are too scared to let someone be brave." Board member Dr. Sandra Kim, who'd been quiet throughout the meeting, finally spoke. "I have to ask the hard question, Lucy. What if the procedure doesn't work? What if Tommy dies anyway, and you went through all that pain for nothing?" Lucy considered this seriously. "Then at least I'll know I tried. At least Tommy will know someone cared enough to try. My daddy told me love isn't about winning or losing. It's about showing up." Dr. Kim's eyes filled with tears. She quickly blinked away. Dr. Morrison looked around the table at her colleagues. "We'll need to deliberate. Mr. Harrison, we'll have our decision in 48 hours. As they left the conference room, Michael felt an anger building inside him that he had never experienced. These people were debating whether to let his son die, while the answer sat right next to him in the form of a brave little girl. "Mr. Michael," Lucy said as they waited for the elevator, "are they going to say no?" Michael looked at her trusting face and made a decision that would change everything. "Lucy, if they say no, we'll find another way. I promise you that. What Michael didn't say was that he was already thinking about options that existed outside the comfortable boundaries of hospital ethics boards. Sometimes, when the system failed, good people had to find their own path to justice. The question was, how far was he willing to go to save his son? Michael paced his penthouse office at midnight, phone pressed against his ear as he spoke with the third private medical consultant he had contacted that night. If the hospital ethics board denied Lucy's donation, he was prepared to take Tommy to Switzerland, Germany, or anywhere else that would allow the procedure. "Mr. Harrison," said Dr. Elizabeth Reyes from her clinic in Mexico City, "I understand your desperation, but taking Lucy out of the country for this procedure would create massive legal complications. Dr. Reyes, my son is dying. If legal complications are the worst thing that can happen, I can live with that. But what about Lucy? What about her family? Medical tourism isn't—" A soft knock interrupted Michael's conversation. He looked up to see Rosa Martinez standing in the doorway, still in her night shift cleaning uniform from the hospital. "Rosa, how did you get up here?" "I still have my hospital ID card. Security recognizes me." Rosa looked exhausted, but determined. "Michael, we need to talk." He ended his call and gestured for Rosa to sit. "If this is about taking Lucy out of the country, I want you to know I would never put her at risk. I've found excellent doctors who—" "Michael, stop!" Rosa's voice was gentle but firm. "I need to tell you something I should have told you days ago." Something in her tone made Michael sit down. "What is it?" Rosa opened her worn purse and pulled out a faded envelope. "When Lucy's father was dying, he made me promise I would give this to someone someday, someone who would understand." "I don't understand." Carlos was delirious at the end, talking about things that didn't make sense. But one day he wrote this letter. Said it was for the father of another sick child, someone he'd never met but somehow knew existed. Michael stared at the envelope, his name written in shaky handwriting. "To the father who loves his son as much as I love Lucy." "Rosa? How could he have known?" "Just read," Rosa whispered. Michael opened the envelope with trembling hands. Inside was a single sheet of paper covered with the careful writing of a dying man. "To the father reading this letter, my name is Carlos Martinez, and I'm dying from AML. As I write this, my 7-year-old daughter Lucy is sleeping in the chair beside my hospital bed, still believing her daddy can get better. I don't know your name or your son's name, but I know you exist. The doctors told me AML is rare, but not so rare that Lucy and I are the only family fighting it. Somewhere out there is another father watching his child fade away, feeling as helpless as I feel right now. I want you to know that Lucy doesn't understand death yet, but she understands love. When I'm gone, she'll need a purpose bigger than her pain. She'll need to believe that all this suffering can turn into something meaningful. If you're reading this, it means Lucy found you and your son. It means she offered to help in the only way she knows how, by giving pieces of herself to make someone else whole. Please let her help you. Not because you need her, but because she needs to help you. My daughter has a heart that was born to heal others. Don't let adults' fear stop her from becoming who she's meant to be. Tell her that Daddy's love lives in every life she touches, every smile she brings, every hope she helps kindle. Take care of my little girl, and let her take care of your little boy. With love from one father to another, Carlos Martinez. Michael's vision blurred as he finished reading. He looked at Rosa, who was crying silently. He wrote this before we met us, Michael said, his voice breaking. Before Lucy was selling candy on that corner. Carlos always said he could feel things others couldn't, Rosa replied. The nurses thought it was the medication, but I knew better. He had a gift. Rosa, this changes everything. This letter proves Lucy's decision isn't impulsive or coerced. Her own father anticipated this moment. More than that, Rosa said, standing. It proves some things are meant to be. Some connections run deeper than chance. Michael pressed the letter against his chest. I'll take this to the ethics board tomorrow. They can't argue with a dying father's wishes. But Michael, Rosa said as she reached the door, what if they still say no? Michael looked out at the city lights, thinking of Lucy's brave face and Tommy's fading strength. Then we proceed anyway. Some things are too important to leave to committees. After Rosa left, Michael read Carlos's letter again. Tomorrow, he would present this final piece of evidence to the ethics board. But tonight, he finally understood that this wasn't just about medicine or procedures or legal permissions. This was about a father's last wish, a daughter's inherited purpose, and the mysterious ways love could transcend death itself. The question was, would it be enough to save them all? The emergency session of the hospital ethics board was called for exactly 7 o'clock in the morning. Michael sat with Lucy, Rosa, and a lawyer he had hired overnight. Carlos's letter lay displayed on the conference table like a sacred text. Dr. Morrison read the letter aloud to the assembled board members, her professional composure cracking slightly when she reached Carlos's final words about love transcending death. "This is certainly moving," said Dr. Morrison when she finished. "But Mr. Harrison, a letter from a deceased father doesn't override our medical and legal obligations." "Dr. Morrison," Lucy spoke up, her voice clear in the quiet room. "Can I say something?" "Of course, dear." Lucy stood up, somehow looking both very young and incredibly mature at the same time. "I've been thinking about what everyone's been saying about me being too little to make this choice." The board members leaned forward. "When my daddy was sick, I watched him make brave choices every day. He chose to keep fighting, even when it hurt. He chose to stay positive for me and Mommy, even when he was scared. He chose to write that letter, even when his hands could barely hold a pen." Lucy's voice grew stronger. "Nobody said he was too sick to make those choices. Nobody said he was too scared or too sad to know what was right. He made those choices because that's what love does. It helps you choose to help others even when you're hurting." Board member Dr. Kim wiped her eyes. "Lucy, that's beautiful, but I'm not finished," Lucy said politely but firmly. "You keep talking about protecting me from making a choice I might regret. But what about protecting me from not making this choice?" The room fell silent. "If Tommy dies because you won't let me help him, I'm going to have to live with that forever. I'm going to have to know that I could have saved my friend, but grown-ups wouldn't let me be brave." Lucy's voice cracked slightly. "That would hurt way more than any medicine or needle." Dr. Wesley cleared his throat. "Lucy, what if we told you we found another potential donor, an adult who could help Tommy?" Michael's head snapped around. "What? Who?" Dr. Morrison consulted her notes. "Last night, we received word that a 34-year-old man in Los Angeles tested positive as a possible match for Tommy. He's agreed to donate if necessary." Michael felt the world tilt. How compatible. 8 out of 10 markers. It's good, but not as perfect as Lucy's match. "But he's an adult?" Dr. Wesley added. "Less risk, fewer legal complications." Lucy looked dismayed. "You found someone else?" "Sweetheart," Dr. Morrison said gently, "this means you don't have to go through the procedure. You did your part just by offering." "No," Lucy said, her voice rising. "You don't understand. Tommy is my friend. I promised we'd fight this together. You can't just replace me with a stranger." Michael studied the board members' faces and recognized the strategy. They had found a way to deny Lucy's donation while appearing to protect her interests. "What's the difference in success rates?" Michael asked. Dr. Morrison hesitated. "Lucy's perfect match would give Tommy a 94% chance of successful engraftment. The adult donor would provide about 78%. So you're asking me to choose a lower chance of saving my son's life to avoid bureaucratic complications?" Michael said, his voice deadly quiet. "Mr. Harrison, a 78% success rate is still very good." "Dr. Morrison," Michael stood up, "if it were your child, would you choose 78% when 94% was available?" The question hung in the air like a challenge. Lucy tugged on Michael's sleeve. "Mr. Michael, what if we let the other man donate and it doesn't work? Then would they let me try?" Dr. Morrison shook her head. "Lucy, if the first transplant fails, Tommy would be too weak for a second attempt. There's only one chance." "Then it has to be me," Lucy said with devastating simplicity, because I'm the best chance. The board members looked at each other, the weight of their decision visible on their faces. We need 5 minutes to deliberate, Dr. Morrison announced. As the board members huddled in whispered conversation, Lucy slipped her small hand into Michael's. Mr. Michael, whatever they decide, I want you to know something. Boo, what is it, sweetheart? My daddy didn't write that letter just for you. He wrote it for me, too. He wanted me to know that when I found you and Tommy, I'd found my purpose. Lucy's eyes shimmered with unshed tears. Even if they say no, I'll always be glad I tried to help. Michael squeezed her hand, knowing that in 5 minutes their lives would change forever, one way or another. Dr. Morrison cleared her throat. We've reached our decision, Dr. Morrison's hands trembled slightly as she looked at Lucy's determined face. After extensive deliberation, the board has voted unanimously to approve Lucy Martinez as Tommy Harrison's bone marrow donor. The room exploded. Rosa burst into tears. Michael felt his knees nearly give way, and Lucy simply smiled, the same bright, determined smile she'd had when selling candy on the corner. However, Dr. Morrison continued, we have conditions. Lucy will have the best pediatric team in the country monitoring her every moment. Mr. Harrison, your foundation will fund a new protocol for pediatric bone marrow donation that ensures no child donor faces unnecessary risks. And Lucy, she looked directly at the little girl, you have the right to change your mind at any time, no questions asked. I won't change my mind, Lucy said confidently. Tommy and I made a promise to fight this together. 3 days later, in adjacent operating rooms at Harrison Medical Center, 2 7-year-old children prepared to make medical history. Lucy lay on her hospital gurney, no longer the nervous child who sold candy for school supplies, but a young hero about to save a life. Are you scared, mi amor? Rosa whispered, holding Lucy's hand as the anesthesia team prepared her. A little, Lucy admitted, but Daddy's with me. I can feel him. In the room next door, Tommy squeezed his father's hand. Lucy's really doing this for me, isn't she, Dad? She really is, son. You have an angel looking out for you. Will I be strong enough to play with her after this? Michael's throat tightened. You'll be strong enough to do anything you want, Tommy. Anything. The procedure lasted 4 hours. Michael paced the family waiting room while Rosa prayed her rosary, each bead a whispered plea for both children's safety. Dr. Chen emerged at 2:47 in the afternoon, still in her surgical scrubs, her face radiant with exhaustion and triumph. Both children did beautifully, she announced. Lucy's donation was perfect, and Tommy's body is already responding to the new marrow. His white blood cell count is rising faster than we've ever seen. Michael sank into a chair, overwhelmed with relief. And Lucy? Sleeping peacefully. She'll be sore for a few days, but she's already asking when she can see Tommy. 2 weeks later, Tommy's room had been transformed into something resembling a carnival. Balloons covered every surface, get-well cards from strangers across the country papered the walls, and Lucy sat cross-legged on his bed, teaching him to make paper airplanes while he regained his strength. Look, Tommy, this one's called the Superman Special, Lucy said, folding newspaper with expert precision. My daddy taught me this one right before he went to heaven. Tommy's hair was starting to grow back in soft tufts, and his cheeks had the first touch of color they'd shown in months. Lucy, when I get out of here, will you teach me how to make your peppermint candy? Of course, and I'll take you to meet my friend Mrs. Henderson who taught me. She's going to love you. Michael watched from the doorway, amazed at how 2 children who had faced the worst life could offer had found joy in paper airplanes and candy recipes. Dr. Chen appeared beside him. His latest blood work is remarkable, she said quietly. The graft is 100% successful. Tommy's body accepted Lucy's marrow as if it were his own. In 6 months, he'll be completely healthy. And Lucy? Lucy is healing beautifully. But Michael, what these children gave each other goes far beyond medicine. They gave each other hope. 3 months later, on a cold December morning, Michael stood in the ballroom of the Harrison Foundation headquarters. Before him were 200 of the city's most influential philanthropists, gathered for the inaugural fundraising event for the Carlos Martinez Pediatric Bone Marrow Program. "Ladies and gentlemen," Michael began, 3 months ago, my son was dying. Today, he's in 4th grade learning multiplication tables and complaining about homework like any normal 7-year-old. Gentle laughter rippled through the audience. He's alive because a little girl in a $40 jacket with a heart worth more than all the money in this room decided that love was stronger than fear. Lucy Martinez taught me that sometimes the people with the least to give have the most to offer. In the front row, Lucy sat between Rosa and Tommy, wearing her first formal dress, a simple blue design that made her eyes sparkle. Tommy, his hair now thick and healthy, held her hand as his father continued. "Tonight, we launch a program that will ensure no child donor ever faces the bureaucratic obstacles Lucy encountered. But more than that, we celebrate the truth Lucy taught us, that miracles don't just come from money or medicine. They come from the willingness to sacrifice for someone else's tomorrow." The applause was thunderous, but Lucy barely noticed. She was whispering something to Tommy that made him laugh. Later, when the evening was winding down, Michael found Lucy and Tommy on the Foundation's outdoor terrace, pointing out constellations in the winter sky. "That one there is Daddy's star," Lucy was saying, indicating a particularly bright point of light. "He told me he'd always watch me from there. Maybe he's watching me too now," Tommy said thoughtfully. "I know he is. That's what daddies do. They take care of all the children they love." Michael approached quietly. "What are you two plotting out here?" "We're making plans," Tommy announced. "When we grow up, we're going to be doctors together. Lucy's going to specialize in bones, and I'm going to do hearts." "Hearts are important," Lucy agreed seriously. "Mine got bigger when I met you." Michael knelt beside them, looking up at the same stars. "You know what the best part is? Your fathers would be so proud of both of you." "Both daddies," Lucy corrected gently. "Your daddy and my daddy. They're probably friends up there talking about how their kids are going to change the world." As they sat together under the December sky, a billionaire, a former street vendor, and a boy who had been given the gift of tomorrow, Michael realized Lucy had been right from the beginning. Sometimes God really did bring people together for a reason. Sometimes miracles came wrapped in peppermint candy and delivered by 7-year-old angels who understood that love was indeed the only force stronger than death. And sometimes the smallest hands carried the biggest hearts, proving that heroes came in all sizes, especially those brave enough to give pieces of themselves so others could live whole. 6 months later, Tommy Harrison hit his first home run in Little League. Lucy Martinez was in the stands, cheering louder than anyone, knowing that her father's last wish had come true. Love had indeed proven stronger than disease, and 2 children had found their purpose in healing the world, one brave act at a time. If this story moved you as much as it moved me, don't forget to leave your like, subscribe to the channel, and activate the bell so you don't miss any story that will touch your soul. Tell me here in the comments, do you believe love can transcend death? Have you ever lived an inexplicable experience that made you believe there's something greater than us? Or maybe you have your own love story that seems to have been orchestrated by destiny. Share this video with that special person who needs to believe in miracles, in second chances, and in the transformative power of true love. And always remember, if Rosa and David could create an eternal legacy with just 6 months of love, imagine what you can create with the love that exists in your heart. Never give up hope, because true love always finds a way to flourish, even in the most unexpected moments. Until the next story that will make you believe even more in the infinite power of love, a hug from the bottom of my heart.